Greetings and welcome once again to the Gaming Codex, the show right to explain to you all the many different words and terms used to describe video games and the video games industry. And today's term is that of matchmaking. According to a general definition, matchmaking is a system that attempts to place players in the same match based on their perceived level of skill, or at the very least on their availability, in order to create a level playing field or a functional game session. This is how matchmaking works in the majority of modern day multiplayer video games. You press a button, you go in a queue, and you end up in a match. But this wasn't always the case. It actually became more of a thing around the time of Halo 2 because Microsoft wasn't having much success with the up until now standard way of handling multiplayer, that being with player hosted servers, which is still kind of the norm on PC and always was, but they were catering to a different audience that didn't have necessarily the tools to accomplish this feat, the time or the patience. So the system they went with allowed players to create playlists of maps they would want to play on, and also group together in parties that would then go on to play on those maps when they were connected to a server that would then respect the playlist that they set. That became the standard way by which the majority of games handle multiplayer, though sometimes not even with the playlist. They just group players together and that's it. A major improvement to matchmaking would come when it was paired with competitive modes, where players needed to be separated in their own skill categories, so there needed to be a way by which you can determine the player's skill. And one of the main methods by which this is accomplished is through the ELO system. This assigns a score to each player that sort of represents what the system believes that the player will be able to do. It's a prediction of their success rate for playing against people with similar-ish skill levels. If you win, the score goes up. If you win against people with lower skill, it doesn't go up that much. If you lose, it goes down. But let's say if you're in a stalemate and you had a lower skill level than someone that was of higher skill, then you actually go up in rank. It's not a perfect system, especially when applied to team-based games, because then you're basically just screwed, which leads us to the popular definition, and that is that matchmaking is a joke. Since the majority of competitive multiplayer games tend to be team-focused, the use of an ELO system or a system that doesn't take into account your own performance in the game, but mostly the performance of the entire team, whether it was a success or not in the end, tends to sort of put players in really awful situations where they can just not climb out of the current tier of competitive skill that they're in, even though they believe that they should be in a higher tier. And they often exhibit this by playing really well in matches but being completely let down by their team. Or some people suck so much in a video game that they don't even understand how much they suck, and they blame everybody else because they're stuck in the league they're supposed to be in, or heck, probably in an even higher one than they're actually supposed to be in, but they were carried there by their teams. This kind of matchmaking, the competitive one, will quite often put you in difficult situations where you will not be actually facing people of your own skill level. This happens especially if you group with someone of a higher skill level, or if there's someone with a really low skill level coupled with someone with a very high skill level in the same group that's trying to go online, and the game will sort of try and match them with an average between the two, and the result will be a wildly unbalanced game, which is why Counter-Strike usually is awful. That, and there's also the fact that people do improve with time, so even though you may be fighting someone that was of your skill level when they joined the league, if they improve but not get promoted out of there, then you will be matched up against someone that is clearly superior to you, and they will leave you in the dust and probably not make it a very fun experience while doing so. Not to mention that when there are not enough players of the correct skill level, the matchmaking systems will try to fudge the numbers and just drag in anybody it can, and the results may be that you will get completely curb stomped by people of higher skill, or that you will be teamed up against some noobs that you can absolutely destroy with no effort, making this very sad for at least part of the players. Now, what is the marketing definition? Well, that would be people are too dumb for a server browser. Needing to create your own server is a challenge that not everybody is up to. You need to maintain it, you need to keep it going and online, and it's not not something that a lot of people can deal with in their spare time. But you do still have major communities that have their own servers, they have people to handle them, and you get really good experiences on those servers usually. And yet even those games that allow you to do this still have matchmaking because it's perceived as the easy way. You just press a button, you're in a game. That's it. And while the process being easier will absolutely get more players in there, it also diminishes the community aspect because when people enter a community-run server, a server that's there with a purpose, it's made by people with sort of style and mind of play, and you just go in there and go out like bats in the night or something, you don't get the same sense of endearment to a community that you would have normally by using the server browser and remembering, oh yeah, that server I played on, that was good, I should stay there. You're in a different mindset than someone that just presses a button and, oh yeah, this match sucked, I'm gonna press it again, it'll take me somewhere else, somewhere new, another server with different people, so I don't have to play with these assholes again. Or, you know, because you were the asshole, that's what they're gonna say. This shift has had a bit of a detrimental effect on the way the communities are run, that communities exist, and the lack of dedicated server support that people can run on their own is going to be a problem in the long run. At least in terms of limiting the importance of community culture, of small independent groups of people playing the game they want to in their way. And it also means the absolute doom of a game when the developer decides, hey, you know what, we're gonna cut the matchmaking servers off. Who needs them? Even if it's a peer-to-peer game where sustaining the multiplayer infrastructure was not that much of an effort. Those games are dead when they do that. They are absolutely dead because if there's no method by which a community can continue supporting the multiplayer, there is no way to play the multiplayer. And even games that still have the matchmaking system turned on still have so many problems because they're based entirely off it. Take for example the multiplayer of Assassin's Creed. Absolutely phenomenal game modes. It's superb, apart from Capture the Artifact, which sucks madly, but it's a great concept for a multiplayer game that is driven into the ground constantly because of the poor multiplayer system architecture. It's all based on matchmaking, on lists, on player parties, and not on someone actually running a server, a dedicated server on which they can exert some control and kick cheaters, limit pings, decide to not put Capture the Artifact there because it's the worst game mode of them all. Matchmaking has effectively ruined online gaming. In some instances, it's made it easier to manage by the developer, with fewer resources, easier to manage by the players because they don't have to host their own servers, but it's a fundamentally worse way to play a game, especially if it's tied into peer-to-peer systems. If there is still dedicated servers around, yeah, no problem. Counter-Strike is still doing well with dedicated servers. Team Fortress 2 is doing well with dedicated servers. Assassin's Creed's multiplayer isn't, even though it is, as I said, astonishingly amazing. So closes another chapter of the Gaming Codex. Come back next time and we will talk about a brand new subject. Goodbye.